All right, so let's go ahead and add in a place where we're going to have our text. So we can zoom in here. And we're going to put the text on the left-hand side of Facebook, on the left-hand side of Twitter, and we'll put it at the top for Instagram and Pinterest. So let's go back to Facebook. We're in the Facebook artboard. We can hide the folder. We don't need to see the folder there. And we want to just go ahead and create a shape because we can easily adjust the shape since it's a square. So go down to the shape tool on the left-hand side. You can see we have rectangle, rounded rectangle, ellipse, polygonal, custom shapes, all these different ones. Just pick the rectangle tool. And if you go outside the borders a little bit, that's okay. We won't see it. And then just go ahead and create a shape. Now, I might even, if it doesn't snap, I might just go over a little bit here. Now, I had that last color selected, so you might have black and white selected. But at the top, you have a fill color. And you can click on that fill color and you can change this to any color that you would like. So if we do yellow, it'll be a bright yellow. So now what happens is we can scroll down and pick one of these colors that we made. So here's that dark brown we made. Here is a little lighter version. That looks pretty nice. We have that. We have that kind of cream color and the lighter cream color. And then we have kind of that off-white color. So you could pick any one of these. I kind of like how the dark browns kind of contrast with the table that it's sitting on. And so maybe we pick one of these and just see how it looks. Again, you can change this later on. You can make this however you want, but we did that with the fill color here at the top. So I'm just going to click on my move tool and just kind of take a minute to look at that and see how that looks. That's a good starting point. We might change the color and change the text and see how it all looks. But let's go ahead and create this one first. Once we get our colors down and everything, then we can reduplicate those across the other three platforms. So I'm just going to start with Facebook. So I'm going to zoom in 100% to where I can see Facebook nice and easy now. And for this graphic, we are just going to do like a coupon type thing with the name of a company and just some information. So the first thing I want to do is I just want to get the text in here. We are on a dark background, so we want to probably start off with the light color text. Let's just go ahead and switch your foreground and background colors from black to white by clicking on the double arrows in the tool panel. Then going to the text typography tool, the type tool here, and you can set your text up to whatever you want. It doesn't matter to me. I do put it on center justified. Often I use that a lot unless I'm writing things specifically for left justification. And I'm just going to go ahead and click in here. That's going to give us some lorem ipsum based on the size of this shape. We don't need all that. Just go ahead and type in the text that you want. So we're just going to call this the brew house. It doesn't need to be this long. We'll just take this and move it up. And then we'll click on the move tool and we can just move that down. So I like to go ahead and just go ahead and put in all the text so we have it in here, and then we can start changing out the text to whatever we want. So I'm going to go ahead and click the next one. Maybe this is something the client said that they, specifically wanted in here. And so you might already know what you need to say, or maybe you don't and you got to, guess. But I'm just going to go ahead and start filling it out, and then we can manipulate it as we see fit. So let's go ahead and put in the last one. And obviously this is way too big to even fit in here. So I'm just going to hit Control A or Command A on Mac OS to select everything. And then I'm going to go to the type size at the top, and we can just click on the drop down box and change this to a smaller size, and then just move that over. And we're going to change the text, so it'll have to be manipulated. But for right now, I just want to make sure that I can see everything. So this is a really good start. So now all we got to do is we just got to make the text look really good and use some basic graphic design theory principles, and then duplicate this information across the other platforms. So the first thing I want to do is, again, I like to look at my layers, the way that I read them. The brew house, have a cup on us, and then free coffee with purchase of any breakfast item. So let's go over to the layers panel. We're going to click on the brew house and just drag it up. put have a cup on us and drag it up, and then free coffee with any breakfast item. Now you'll notice that I use caps locks on the brew house and free coffee with purchase of any breakfast item. We're going to change the have a cup on us to more of a stylized or handwritten looking font. And so I don't use capitalization across everything here, but this I want to be nice and bold so people can see. And then another thing that we want to talk about as we begin changing these fonts is the hierarchy of the way you want people to read this. So you think to yourself, what is most important and what needs to be read first, and you need to give that the most emphasis. You do that either through bolded text, through the color, or through the size. So we want to grab their attention right away. So have a cup on us is kind of a catchy term, and it's the thing that's going to grab the attention, and we want that to be biggest. Now we're going to change the fonts here in a moment, but let's just go ahead and highlight this, and we're just going to make this a little bit bigger. And then the next thing is, what's the next important piece of information? Well, getting the free coffee is pretty important because we want people to know what this is about. However, it's typically the title of the company or the brand that you're promoting because people need to know who is us and where can they get this coffee. So the brew house would be the next one. Now it's a little smaller than have a cup on us, which is great. If we just want to exaggerate this emphasis a little bit, we can go ahead and maybe turn it down. And then free coffee with purchase of any breakfast item. And you can see, let's see what that font size is. So what is that? 18. And the brew house is 36. And then the main heading is 60. So by doing this, before it actually looked like the brew house was most important because it was bigger than have a cup on us. And we changed that around. So now this gives us nice visual hierarchy where we see have a cup on us first, and then we see the brew house, and then we can read what's going on. Free coffee with purchase of any breakfast item. And that is actually how people will look at your text. If someone is scrolling through their Facebook feed, they'll see this image of the coffee. If they're a coffee lover, they might pause for a second and say, ooh, I like that coffee. And then have a cup on us. Oh, well, who's us? The brew house. And what are they offering? Free coffee with purchase of any breakfast item. So you're creating the actual motion that you want people to read this information based on the emphasis and the visual weight of these different things in the hierarchy that you use. Now, let's just go ahead and change out some of the information. So we'll change the fonts. These fonts are not that great. Arial, it's not bad for like free coffee with purchase of any breakfast item. It's okay for the brew house, nothing spectacular. And then have a cup on us, definitely don't want to use it for that because I just don't like the way that looks. Let's start with that one first. So go ahead and triple click or click inside with the type tool on have a cup on us. And then select all, Control A or Command A, and then select a font. So you can come down and just pick a font that you already have. I use Voltage for this type of thing. I think it looks kind of cool. It's a nice little handwritten, but it's easy to see at a distance. If you want to search for your own font or find a different font to use, like you don't have a good font in your library, the cool thing about Adobe CC subscriptions is you can go to the top to type and click Add Fonts from Typekit, and it'll actually allow you to download from thousands of different fonts. So go ahead and find yourself a font that you like, activate it on Typekit, and then come back in here, and then when you go up to the setting, it'll automatically be installed, and you can find that. But I'm just going to use Voltage. It's just a common one that I like. Now, we can see the size here, and we want this to be real big and really stand out. So I want to make this as big as I can without bleeding into the graphic or off the edge or, leaving enough spacing on both sides. So I'm going to go ahead and click my type tool. Actually, I always do this. I don't need to select everything. And I can go to the type size and I can make it bigger. So we can make it 72. So that's about as far as we can go from edge to edge, and it's still a little too close for comfort for me. I feel like we're starting to blend in here a little bit, and that might be not really what we want. So we have to make a executive decision. Do we want to keep this all on one line, or maybe we can split up the lines? So we could say have a cup and then drop this down a little bit, and then now we have the ability to make it a little bigger. So I'm just going to go ahead and select the type tool, and you can type in a number. There's no more presets here, so we can punch in a number like say 100 points, or we can click and drag on the type size icon and it'll automatically resize for us. And in doing so, you can see we can get a lot bigger and a lot more impactful. Remember, you're doing this to try to break someone's attention long enough for them to read this and see what's going on. So for instance, if we zoom out, and let's go ahead, and I'm just going to hide these other artboards for a minute. Okay, so let's just focus on this for a second. So what we want to do is we want to make sure when someone's looking at this on mobile, or they're looking at this on their timeline and they're scrolling fast, this really pops and stands out. And you got to imagine sometimes these things might look this big. So if someone's on their phone, it might actually be this size. So I like to zoom out and just kind of see, can I read it? Is it too big? Also, when you zoom out, you get a better overall view. Your eyes kind of can see everything easier, and you can see, are things lined up or not lined up? And is this, big enough? Is it too big? I think for one, it might be a little too big, and we might need a little spacing in between these two lines because they're kind of close together and we want some breathing room. So let's zoom back in. And as we zoom in, one thing I was saying is, you can see everything here, but your eyes have to kind of go back and forth. When you zoom out, you might have a better stance on what it looks like. Let's go ahead and grab that type tool. We're at 125. Let's go down to 120. It's not bad. Maybe 118. And let's add a little space in between this. So I do need to highlight this for this. And we need to go to the character panel. You can go to Window and go click on Character. Or if you already have it on the panel like I do, I can just come over here and open up the character panel. And we want this one that's actually highlighted right here. That is the line spacing. It's two A's with some arrows going up and down. If we click on that and we drag with this highlighted, we can get spacing. So, if it's here, it's way too close. If it's here, it's way too far away. So let's just find a nice little place where there's plenty of breathing room in between the two lines, but not so dislocated from one another that you can't read. That looks good. Might be a little too much. We could all probably bring it in just a hair. So I'm close. Let's type in 120. I think that looks good. And then all these purple lines that are popping up are guides. So it's trying to find things inside of the image and the document to line up to. So I just want to make sure that I'm centered. And we can mess around with that in just a minute to make sure we have the right center. So this is starting to come along. It's starting to look pretty good.